We will take this opportunity to update you on the recent developments in the industry and Bandhan Bank during this quarter. To discuss all this in detail, I've got with me our founder, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh, our Housing Finance Head, Mr. Sudhin Choksey, and our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sunil Samdani. Now I'd like to request our founder, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh, to brief you all about bank's financial performance and development for the quarter ending December 2020. Over to you, sir.
Good evening and Happy New Year to all the investors and analysts. This is the third quarter we are completed in the time of COVID. Though it is a period is in very much pandemic, but the vaccination has been started. It has given back the hope to us that the future will get coming to the normalcy on that. If I go to the ground level, a couple of things we have been learning, which I like to share with you. The people's movement have been started freely. There is no restriction to enter the village. So that now group meeting we are organized to starting on that. This is a very good improvement we have been seeing after the COVID the situation. Second thing, we see that there is a new to credit also has been picked up in the normal time also that before the COVID, the same situation has come, and the loan demand also returning back. The Bandhan Bank are working with a long time with the people, and because of the bank, our deposit the program we have been started in 23rd August 2015, and gradually we are continue the performance on that the deposit growth, and retail deposit and CASA is very strong. In this time, this quarter also we have been seeing that. The strong new vertical was called the third party product sale. This is a very good non-interest income, which is fee-based income has come highest in the any of the quarter on that. And this is the quarter we have been the balance sheet has been cost of 1 lakh crore. We have been achieved on that. This is the achievement of the team of Bandhan. And AUM have been cost of 1,50,000 crores. During this time in the COVID situation, we are a little bit conservative to make the balance sheet and to account for some of the provision. You know that we are always taking as an upfront if we feel that something is needed. We will take it to the more than whatever we have the need on that. And this time again, we have been taken.
Excuse me, sir. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Sir, I'll be just reconnecting you from a different number. The audio is slightly not audible. I'll just call you back immediately. Requesting all participants to please stay connected. We are just trying to reconnect the chairperson back to the conference. Requesting you all to please stay online. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the chairperson reconnected. Over to you, sir.
Can you help me where I have been stopped and where I would like to start again? So sorry for some the system disturbance. If I come on that, the bank have been performed a very good deposit franchise, which is focusing in the retail and CASA. And this quarter also we have been focused on that in that there is a third-party product sale. So we have been seeing that the very good fee-based income has come to the bank, which is not come earlier any quarter on that, which is near to double of the last quarter. And the Bandhan Bank have been achieved the 1 lakh crore balance sheet size, and AUM has come 1,50,000 crores. Within all this, the situation, Bandhan always assess their asset risk, and it has been in advance. Our provision may come that little bit higher, which is not maybe the every time is a totally actual thing on that. In this time also we have been little bit conservatively assessed that and seen that we are provision in our balance sheet 1,000 crores extra in this quarter, and which is the total COVID extra provision will come now 3,119 crores. Coming to the more performance, more point of view, the bank performance in this the quarter, net interest income growth has come 34.46%, and quarter-on-quarter growth has come 8%, which is a total NII we have been earned in this quarter 2,072 crores, which is very good amount in the bank. 38% of the total income growth has come in this quarter, which is a 2,625 crores. 51% our operational profit have been done in the bank in this quarter, and which is 1,914 crores, and which is 18% growth in quarter-on-quarter basis is the operational profit. Our NIM is 8.3%, which is also better than the last quarter. It was in 8%. Gross NPA 1.1%, which was in earlier quarter is a 1.2%, and net NPA 0.3%, which one in the earlier quarter is a 0.4%. If I come into this, the advance growth has come 22.60%, which is year-on-year basis. But quarter-on-quarter basis, it is in 4.75%. And total advances, as per the 31st of December, has reached from that 80,255 crores. And out of that, the microcredit loan, which is a group loan, is in 59%. Though we have been done as a extra provision of 1,000 crores, but our ROA, return on asset, has come 2.4% this quarter, and ROE 14.6%. Overall profit, if we not done the provision extra 1,000 crores, that will be 1,374 crores, which is 88% from the year-on-year basis and 22% on quarter-on-quarter basis. So because of 1,000 crores, we are extra provision done. So net profit has come 643 crores. Our collection efficiency, if we see that in this first quarter, especially if it is say that the microcredit, it has come to the customer collection efficiency 94%, and if it is a value term, it is a 92%. And deposit growth has come 30%, which is year-on-year basis, and quarter-on-quarter basis deposit growth has come 8%, and total deposit has come 71,188 crores. And as a historically, Bandhan is focusing on CASA and retail deposit. In this time, we also seen that a very good achievement has come by the team. 43% CASA, 81% retail deposit. And we see that 66% of the CASA growth has come as a year-on-year basis, which is the highest in the bank life. Our bank has the banking outlet 5,190. Last quarter, we have been open 490 banking outlets. Customers have been reached the 2.25 lakh, which is the last quarter we have been added the 17 lakhs the new customer. I like to mention in here, whatever the new to customer added in the bank, if I say that in the microcredit level, it has been come the nearly 3 lakhs in the month of December 20 compared to the December 19 it was in a 2 lakhs. So it means to see that the new customer acquisition or new customer demand for credit is a growing, coming such a way which is more than normal situation on that. Bank have a staff 47,260. So I hope that you have some question. I will be like to explain on that. But overall, my views on that this quarter performance has come very good and gradually improved the collection efficiency also. We have the confidence on my team and my customers and the future. This means this quarter it will become very near to normal on that, because always the fourth quarter business growth is in highest in any of the quarter. When the business growth will come highest, automatically NPA or risk the portfolio will come down on that. Thank you to all of you for your passion and time. Please.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Jai Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. The first question is on asset quality. So if I look at the MFI book, the collection efficiency is around 90 or 92. And we also have the pro forma slippages. So just wanted to understand what is the PAR portfolio at risk in MFI book, which is outside of the pro forma slippages.
Okay. If I little bit clarify to on that, whatever the pro forma we have given the 7.1%. So on the beginning, my statement I have been given that we are very conservatively taken on that. Because whatever the total collection efficiency has come, other than microcredit, all are in a 98%. This is the first point. And next point on that, we see that the microcredit, out of 92% customers who are partially given the installment, we are taking them as a risk, though it is not yet a risk, because these are the people, because of the microcredit, when they started the partial repayment, they will once upon a time they will become to the full repayment, and they will become to the normal. Because in the today we are calculating on that. For that reason, we are taken as a partial installment paid customer as a portfolio on that as it is. So that it has come to the 7.1%.
Right. No, sir. So actually, I was asking that there would be some when you calculate collection efficiency, right? You would have the people who have not paid and hence they have been tagged as pro forma slippages. So that would have reduced your collection efficiency. So if I were to bifurcate that as of December end, this much is pro forma slippages, and outside of this, how much is the portfolio at risk par?
So if you see my current customer, right, the current customers that we have is about 73%, which is the non-delinquent customer.
Right.
And then we have, different bucketing of 30 plus, 60 plus, and 90 plus.
Mr. Jai Mundra, does that answer your question?
Sorry, okay. So I don't know. So, okay, sir. And if you can quantify the 0-day par in the state of West Bengal and Assam, if possible.
So that breakup we don't have. We have given the 0-day par at an overall level for EEB.
Sure. Okay.
And West Bengal and Assam anyway is about 60% plus of our entire portfolio.
Right, sir. Okay. Great, sir. I'll come back in the queue.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, I would like to remind all participants, if you have a question, please press star then 1 on your touchtone telephone. The next question is from the line of Amanjeet Singh from Excalibur Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, I just wanted to understand, so the collection efficiency that we have reported, there has been a slight dip in the first 15 days of January. So could you let us know what has changed and what is your outlook on the coming quarter?
If you see that we are clearly trying to address to you on that. The Assam, there is a government have been declared as a bill, and also after that there have been microcredit loan waiver. It was in the first week of January. So when this news has come in the 1st of January, at the moment the customers have been, there is a confusion about the customers. Who are the borrowers and what are the criteria government will be set up for the waive of the loan. So there is a reason on that. For that reason, it has been a little bit come down on that, which was in a 88%. My collection efficiency was in a September. It has been December in Assam has come down 78%. But if I say that in the 2 days after the 16th of January, today it is not any further declining. Now it has been stopped the declining. It is come improving on the onwards on that. So we hope that the next 1 month it will be coming to the earlier position, and by March it will be more or less will become to near with other states.
Okay, sir, and I might have missed this point. So, but what is the absolute zero DPD for the entire book?
For the entire microbanking book, the absolute zero DPD is 76%.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's it from my side.
I'm talking about the current portfolio, right, which is not overdue.
Okay, so how would we see that, sir?
Zero plus. I'm saying zero.
Okay. Sir, and so this collection efficiency excluding arrears, so the arrears is because of what the earlier moratorium. How should we look at that?
Sorry, could you please repeat your question?
Sir, on the collection efficiency, it says into bracket excluding arrears. So how would that play out, sir, on the arrears bit? Is that because of the moratorium?
No, arrears means we are not, if you look at, there are two things, right? One is the repayment rate and one is collection efficiency without arrears. So repayment rate includes the overdues of earlier months. If we consider that also in our calculation, then it is 100% plus. When we say excluding arrears,
it means that we are only considering the current demand against current collection.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karthik Chellappa from Buena Vista Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, sir. I have 3 questions. Firstly, we had earlier guided for a credit costs of about 300 to 350 basis points for the full year. But now, in view of the situation in Assam and the impending elections, we have taken about a 560 basis points in 3Q. So how do you see your credit costs and NPL ratio playing out, let's say, for the rest of the year in the fourth quarter?
Firstly, we had guided for a 3.5% at an overall level for the credit cost. Now, with the new developing situation in Assam, what we have presented, in the first 16 days impact, which we believe is, the initial impact is always high, and then things kind of stabilize and sink in, right? So, basis that impact, if we have to take the additional 2% drop in collection efficiency, so our credit cost guidance then go up, at least by 100 basis points from 3.5. So we believe on the all, it should be less than 5%. This is the current situation.
Okay, got it. And sir, last quarter, you had shared that 7.6% of your EEB loans by value and 12.3% of the loans by number were top-up loans. Can I get the corresponding figures for this quarter, both by value and number of customers?
So this quarter, the top-up loan number has been very low. So we've not done, because the top-up was more offered at the time when there was a moratorium in place and the environment was more about COVID. So post the moratorium, the regular loans have picked up. And if you look at the absolute amount, I may not have the percentage readily available, but in my investor presentation, I have given that the absolute amount is 920 crores of top-up disbursement,
which was in the last quarter, 2,370 crores.
So in percentage terms, last quarter, about 25% of my disbursements were in top-up. In the current quarter, it is about less than 6%.
Okay, so less than 6% of the disbursements have been in top-ups this quarter compared to 25% or so last quarter.
Yes.
Okay, great. And my last question, sir, is in January, you have actually undertaken a revision of your fixed deposit rates. And if I look at various buckets, your FD rates right now are almost at 6% or below 6%. But your savings bank account rates for 10 lakhs and above continues at 6%. And if it goes into 10 crores or so, it's probably even 6.55. So in such a situation, it is natural for you to see some movement of funds from your FD to your savings account. But I'm just wondering why you have not reduced your savings rate as well, because right now the arbitrage in the rates seem to be quite obvious.
You see that this is a very right way you have been addressed, and I taken this call as a consciously, because when any FD make any bank, that is in cost is higher than the savings, because I have need to attend the customer and make it with a printing of the fixed deposit receipt, and again when he will become on that and withdraw for that, and that is also needed. One of the time will be spent on that. It is better on that to give the freedom to the customer. If it is even the 6% which is near to FD rate, and they will be like to enjoy it on that easily. And senior citizen is more happy on that way. So that is the logic behind on that we are making it.
Okay, great. Just one follow-up, sir. If I were to just look at the collection efficiency in West Bengal, that also dipped a bit in the first 15 days of Jan relative to December. Any disturbances or problems in collection efficiency that you're experiencing there at this point? That will be all. Thank you.
No, that is not anything been disturbance in here. It is always happened sometimes in the first week, second week, and the fourth week they are cover it on that. So that is happen on that 0.5% or 1% fluctuate on that week on week basis. So because of the mid of the month we have been making on that, and a couple of holidays was in a there in the first week. So that it has been little bit has come, and again it will become up in the closing of the month.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, and wish you and the team all the very best.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Rahul Jain from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. Sunil, coming back to the collection efficiency, you said 76 is, zero DPD. Can you give us a further breakdown of the 24%, of course, minus the NPL, pro forma NPL, which is 5%? What buckets they would be in 0 to 30, 30 to 60? Any further granular breakdown can you give us?
So, 76.54 is the exact number for the zero DPD customer. If you talk about the 30 plus customers, between 30 to 60, it is around 6%, and between 60 to 90, it is around 4%.
Sorry, I'll just repeat. So 30 to 60 is 6%. So that takes up to 82.5, and 60 to 90 you're saying is about
Sorry,
4%.
some confusion there. So 30 plus, 30 to 60 is 10%.
Okay. And 60 to 90 is? Hello?
And yeah, just a sec. I'll just give you that number. And 60 to 90 is another 5%.
Okay, so that makes it up to 91%, and then plus 7% NPL. And then maybe there would be, okay, so that is 98%. Got it. Second is, have you taken any interest income reversal also because of this pro forma NPLs?
No, that we have not taken so far, but that amount for us is relatively less, because the way we allocate the EMI in our micro banking business, we first adjust it against the interest, then the principal. So our estimate is the total unrecovered interest, which is standing in the receivables, is about 349 crores.
Got it. The other question is on the restructuring, and related to that is pro forma. So, let's say, Supreme Court verdict, comes out hypothetically, whenever. So these 7% will actually become NPA, or you have the option of even restructuring these cases?
We always have the option of restructuring this case. We have not done any restructuring till date. Right? Our focus is always to connect with the customer and do the collections upfront. We have time till 31st March to evaluate that option.
Okay. Got it. And the last bit is on the Bengal part. So I guess, last quarter, sir had mentioned that, as the local transportation improves, opens up, etc., this would swiftly get back up to 95-98%. Now, in the backdrop of election noise, and of course the neighboring state Assam is having this MFI loan waiver episode going on, do you think Bengal is likely to remain around these levels, which means no improvement despite opening up of local transportation, or this could actually drop in the wake of the local politicians getting involved in MFI loan waiver, etc.? Anything that can impact the Bengal collection efficiency essentially is the question.
No, Rahul, it is not in a political issue or election issue. That is until now, it is an issue of this is the people's, the consumer demand is not come that much. If I give the one or two example on that, train have been started, yes, but until now, if the person will like to go to Assam or come from Assam, there is a need of the COVID test, and they cannot be stay more than 24 hours. So this is the position is now surrounding state where Calcutta is a business hub. So this especially if I say that the ready-made garments and the jewelry work, and also if you see that there is a shadi, there is a big hub of the surrounding of the city. And all these in the hub, the people have the manufacture, but the people in the other state are not coming, even in the heart, even in the train open, but they cannot get the seller. So if it is, buyer. So if it is not, it is coming to the normal, so that it is a little bit conservative has come on that. So I feel that and after the puja, whatever that is they like to pick up in that point, that is not happened. So after that, what is see that by December, 15th of December, that again it has been started little bit on that. So I hope that the next couple of months, it will be like to very good position, whatever I predicted earlier and you mentioned on that. So that is not the problem. And election of course is there, but election is not the matter for this collection efficiency and the growth of the credit on that.
Fair point, sir. Appreciate the clarification. But, sir, as we've seen in the case of Assam, there's been a sharp drop within like a 15-day period. And while I appreciate you said that it is stable, it has not gone back up to 88% either. So what are we trying to do to educate the customer that they should sort of keep their balances current? Because that clearly is a risk even for your neighboring state Bengal, where we have a large exposure.
No, Rahul, see, while in the value terms, it is at 90%, that's because of the part payment customers, right? And as I said, we have not done any restructuring for any of our customers. The number of customers who are talking to us and are actively engaging with us and paying some part installments, that is still upwards of 94%. So we are not worried so much about, clearly there has been an impact on their income and they have been paying part payment, making part installments. So that shows their willingness, right? It's the question of ability. As their income level goes up, they will repay faster, and in any case they are doing part installments.
Got it. Just one more question, follow-up question on this.
If you say that, Rahul, you are talking about the Assam issue on that.
Yeah.
This is a good picking up on that because the people already started to talking on that. Can we go again to the money lenders to take the loan from money lenders? Who will give the money to me to run the business during this even 6 months or 3 months? And they are understand very good way on that. And second point, they say that if I am not paying now, maybe in another 1 month or 2 months, so my credit bureau record will be like to damage. And whenever it will be come to the waive the loan, that time maybe I am not eligible. I do not know that which criteria is eligible for get this the credit credit waive from the government. So that they are removing back on that from their side. And next point on that, the who have the running business, they are not joining on that point. So that they are coming on that because in the first rumor has come, immediately little bit is impact, and gradually it has been coming up on that. I have the confidence on that because we are in this time, yes, we are little bit conservative and very selective. We are disbursing the credit in the Assam, and our people are touching to the every customer, and that is the feedback I have been given very latest one on that. So that they are returning back to the normal. I hope that another next month it will be the different scenario as per my experience of the earlier and also experience from the Assam, Bengal and others. Because it's not in a very exceptional case. It's a normal case in the microcredit industry on that. And it sometimes happened in the area of the corner, sometimes happen in the state level, If I say that the very good example is the AP, whatever happened. We have now started the credit to the AP. And customer in the time of COVID, 99%, they say that we lost once upon a time, but we cannot be lost again. So that is a big realization also coming to this level of the customer.
Fair point, sir. Just one last question, Sunil. This 7% of pro forma NPL, are you receiving any amount of money from these customers? And if yes, then what would that be as percentage of the loans? As in, how much are they paying whatever is due installment?
No, as I said, right, this includes part payment customers, because for part payment customers, DPD keep flowing.
Yeah.
Right? Despite they've been regular in paying part payment. So this is the impact of that as well. If I have to remove the part payment customers, from this, then this number would fall to something like 3.5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or even, yeah.
Got it.
And Rahul, next point adding on that, who are the part payment, they are actually return back the discipline of the repayment. There's a very good sign on that. These people have that, if they have the intention to not to repay, so these people will not come to this, given this even the part installment. So very good sign of these people will be returned back. Maybe 1 month extra or 2 months extra is needed for them.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir. Wish you very good luck, you and your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next question is from the line of Sameer Bhise from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Just wanted to ask, when we have taken the view on credit cost and the excess provision, does it reflect the state of affairs as on 31st December, or you have kept some buffer for the worsening that has happened early Jan, or what is expected to happen coming March, or say before the elections? How does one take confidence there?
So, Sameer, the provision that we have taken takes into account the situation as of today, right? And that is precisely the reason, we have accelerated the provisioning. So this takes into account the developing situation of Assam as well.
Are you seeing...
Sameer, your point is, and you will not keep in that mind on that the provision will have been made for election. No.
Sorry, I couldn't get you there, sir. Can you just repeat?
I said that somewhere you have been mentioned some of the provision maybe we have been done for election. No. We have been not done anything because of the election, because we have the best experience on the election. Election is not the matter for us.
Sure. I appreciate that. Secondly, when you say that 76% is the on-time repayment that you are getting currently, when you are looking at behavior of customers who are beyond 30 days, how do you differentiate in terms of what proportion of that is Assam driven and what would be West Bengal or other states driven?
No, Sameer, just to correct. When I say 76.54 or if I round up to 77, this is zero DPD as on date. That is different from my current full paying customers, right? Because moratorium ended in August. People started paying back from the September. People, some started paying from 1st of September, some started paying from 1st of October, right? So this factors in those customers which started late, right? So they will still be overdue. If we talk about our current full payment customer, it is around 80%.
Okay. So basically, you mean to say that customers who are fully current and paying on time is close to 80% after the moratorium repayment started coming in?
Yes. So let's say customers who started paying after 2 weeks installment, they would be overdue customers technically, right?
Okay.
But currently, the 80% of customers are paying on time and are regular. I mean the full installment. The rest are part installment.
Okay. Finally, just wanted to get a sense on how do you look at the situation that Assam would kind of have an bearing on other states or maybe West Bengal or some of the other larger states in terms of luring customers with waivers, etc. What are your thoughts on the same? That should be from my side.
I think it's fair to connect Assam with any other state, right? I mean, there is no reason to think that if it has happened in one state, it can happen in other states as well. Yes, we can think about it, but practically, every state have its own dynamic.
If you recall in the Sumi, when the AP crisis has come in the 2011, so that time no other states have been implemented it. Last 10 years. So it is not like to a replicable model of that.
Sure. And just one data point, what would be the write-off amount for the quarter?
0.
Okay.
0.
Thank you so much. Okay, sure. All the best.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurav Kumar from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Sir, this extra credit cost of 700 crores you have provided, over and above the earlier guidance, this equates to roughly about 8% of your Assam MFI portfolio. So, fair to say at this point, your assessment will be an 8% loss on that Assam business at this point of time?
Yes, that is what we are seeing it today.
Okay. Basis, so effectively you've provided for Assam, or do you, basis the if your current expectations pan out, do you think you need to provide more in Q4, or is this 700 crore in your assessment will be more than enough?
So there will be some provisions in Q2. We'll have to see how much it is, but we don't want to take it beyond this financial year.
Okay. And sir, the second question was essentially you gave your stage 2 assets, so effectively 14% were in the stage 2. On a on a normal basis, what percentage will be in stage 2?
See, on a normal basis, we used to have a collection efficiency of 98-99%. So where is the question of stage 1, 2, and 3? Right, this is the COVID impact, and the moratorium and the delay because when there is a stop for almost 3 to 4 months, starting March to August, right, and then you have to restart that exercise for the customers to come back to regular repayment. It takes a couple of months. So by that time, the DPD flows.
Okay. The third one is essentially that is your reading that the Assam MFI bill applicable to you? So my question is effectively, number one, is this the Assam MFI bill issue, or in your view it's the political moral hazard issue? That's what I'm asking.
Second one. If you see that the Assam bill, whatever you say, it is not, as per my knowledge, whatever I saw in the draft, it is not applicable for bank.
Okay, got it, sir. And sir, have you spoken to the government at all on this loan waiver, or you have not spoken to them on this issue?
Sorry, we couldn't get your question. Saurabh, could you please repeat?
Sir, have you spoken to the government on this loan waiver issue? Because we were hearing that the microfinance industry, you're not part of it, but the M10 industry is going to speak to them. But I was wondering if you have spoken to the government on this loan waiver issue.
I cannot disclose it publicly. Sorry.
Okay, sir. And sir, one final question. On this CASA sourcing, which has gone up very substantially quarter on quarter, can you throw some light? What's driving that?
It's a mix of both, Saurabh, the new account acquisition, which has gone back to pre-COVID levels, and also the existing customer base, increasing their wallet share. So that's what we are seeing, in our CASA book.
Okay. And gradually, the customer, middle level and high net worth level customers also, confidence has come to the bank. Couple of the quarters year after the listing, they have been observed on that, the bank strength, bank quality of the portfolio, and then confidence has been built up on that, then deposit is done. It's a normal, I feel that.
And I'm sorry, sir, just one additional question. So when that CA NRC happened last year in Assam, the total write-off, if you can confirm, was 270 crores on the Assam book?
Yes, around similar level.
And what was the bottom in terms of collection efficiency then?
If I say that just one point, maybe full figure is not the recall. Whatever we have been done in the less than 200, and this is the first time in the Assam in the last 15 years of the Bandhan done this write-off. Not a single written off done in the last 15 years in Assam. So that is the confidence on that customer is very good. Customer will be returned back again on that with the Bandhan.
Okay. So in 15 years you have not written off anything. The last year you wrote off 270 crores, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Premchandani from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead. Mr. Amit Premchandani, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead with your question. As there's no response from the current participant, we take the next question from the line of Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thank you for taking my question. So firstly, in terms of looking at this collection efficiency which is there at the 78% in Assam and 89% in West Bengal, how do we see the disbursement trend? Would we be cautious, and should we see that having the impact on the overall portfolio? Because maybe last till December it was holding on pretty well and we had seen this kind of a disbursement trend, but now we will get more cautious. And what would be our strategy with respect to both the portfolios in terms of getting it down? No doubt 5-year strategy is there, but given the immediate risk which is there in terms of collection efficiency as well as elections, would we be extremely cautious in both the states? So that was the first question. Second question was in terms of the collection efficiency. Again, when we look at other segments, be it commercial banking as well as affordable housing, there also from September to December there is no improvement as such. It's at 98%. So if I have to look at the breakup of pro forma GNPL across these three segments, be it EEB, commercial and affordable, if you can share that. And then one last question in terms of savings deposits. So if you can just share in terms of the customer profile which is leading to this kind of a gain, there is almost like 50% rise in the balances. And if you can share the distribution as to how much comes in 3% and how much comes in more than 6% of the overall portfolio.
So, Kunal, too many questions. If you can
one by one, you can be like to see that.
So firstly, in terms of this disbursement strategy out there in both the states, given this immediate disruption which is there, okay, and there would be some disruption because of elections as well. So what would be and could that have the impact on the growth? Because we would have not seen it till December, but I think now the collection efficiencies are not that great now.
No, firstly, we'll have to differentiate between the two states, right? We can't bucket them together, right? We've given West Bengal because it is our largest state, and Assam we've given because of the development happening, right? So we don't, there is no reason for us to believe that both states are on similar lines. The answer is no, right? To your question on disbursements, Assam, clearly we are cautious, right? And that has been our strategy in any challenge. When there is a challenge, the first reaction is to step back, connect with the customer, go slow on disbursement, improve that connect quotient with the customer, and once we are confident, then start the. the similar strategy will work here in Assam. West Bengal, we don't see any reason why we should think differently than what we were thinking a month back, right? So that strategy continues.
No, because Assam also we thought that maybe we will be able to hold on to the collections, but the bill really disrupted. So I don't know whether that cautious stance would be there. And overall growth, I think so on the MFI side, we will still be continuing with the similar kind of a momentum.
No, see, ultimately it depends on the customer need, our assessment of customers, and of course the overall position in the state. So for Assam, clearly the stance will be slightly cautious. For other states, we don't see any reason for those customers who are regular paying and meet our criteria to worry too much here.
Okay. Sure. And secondly, in terms of pro forma of collection efficiency on commercial banking and affordable housing, that's been also flat. It's not going up. And so how would be the pro forma GNPL breakup across three segments? I think pro forma GNPL of 7.12 is for the overall book. So if you can just give it how much it is there in EEB, how much in commercial, and how much in affordable?
About 95% is EEB.
In absolute term, if you have to look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay. And lastly, in terms of savings deposits, so when we look at the balance, that has gone up by almost like 50% year on year, maybe average savings balance, and in fact it is up quarter on quarter as well. So what is the kind of profile? Is it more like a government account, so military out there? How would this profile of the customers would be? And secondly, if you can share the split between 3%, what proportion of savings deposits are in 3% bucket, and what is in more than 6% bucket?
Yeah. So to your first question, what is the profile of our saving bank customer? It's largely retail, right? The reason we have seen a large pickup this quarter, clearly, that's an incentive that we have offered to our customers to stick with us and not go to competition who are offering higher term deposit rate, right? So here what we are telling to our customers that you get a similar rate like term deposit and get a flexibility of a saving bank which you can use whenever you want, right? The alternate was that they might go to competition who are offering much higher rates because retail customers do look for rates. So in the bargain, we have seen the improvement in our current CASA balances as well.
Okay. So then, is it negotiable then maybe the table which we get in terms of 1 lakh to 10 crores and maybe 10 crores to 50 crores? So is the rate negotiable or this would be fixed and we negotiate in terms of the balances with them?
We don't negotiate, it is all fixed.
Okay, so rates are fixed. Maybe we would be saying graduating from maybe the lower balances to more than 1 lakh balances. That is how it would be.
Yes. So the current customers who are keeping it in FD on maturity instead of renewing it because here they get the same 6% and the flexibility to use it whenever they want. Otherwise, the option was they can go to competition who is offering higher rates.
Okay. And splits between less than 1 lakh and more than 1 lakh or maybe 3% and 6% of the overall savings pool?
In value terms, about 67-68% of SA balance is above 1 lakh.
Is above 1 lakh.
Sorry, is less than 1 lakh.
Sorry?
67% is less than 1 lakh.
Okay, 67 to 68% of SAYA because average is any which way 60 or 1000. So, okay. So that is less than 1 lakh and 30 to 33 would be more than 1 lakh, which would be 6%.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Adarsh Parasrampuria from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Sunil. Wanted to check, you did say majority of the NPAs come from the MFI book. Could you just tell by the top 2-3 states, right? Like how much NPAs would that be in Assam and West Bengal, at least your two large states? Just to put things in context.
Largely, it would flow with the quantum of portfolio we have in state. That's the second. So largely, yes. If you look at West Bengal, it is about 2,500, so roughly 50%, which is what our share in the total book is, 47%, yes, which is what the share is. So largely it reflects the overall portfolio, with an exception of Assam, which is slightly higher.
So you're saying Assam higher than the 7% number, rest assume each state to be at similar level.
No, I'm not saying. It reflects the portfolio of that state.
Okay, got it.
So whatever is my distribution of portfolio statewide, largely the NPAs are also distributed in a similar fashion, with an exception of Assam, which is slightly higher.
Okay. But would that be a little counterintuitive, because again, it at some point has to mirror collections to some extent, and I would imagine that even like in Assam, obviously it's higher NPA ratio. It should be something similar in West Bengal, right? Given that collections have lagged, right? So, like if your rest of India portfolio is a 94% collection and West Bengal is 89, your NPAs also should kind of reflect, a similar trajectory of higher NPA in your in a West Bengal portfolio.
See, that's where when we say probable NPA, these includes part payment customers as well.
Yeah.
Right. So collection efficiency considers part payment customers as well.
Okay.
So. Right. So we'll have to differentiate between the two and then look at it. What is, if you talk about number of customers paying, that is not very different statewide.
Got it. My second question is related to the per account loans, right? Because of COVID 6 months of moratorium, automatically there would have been a 10-15% increase in the outstanding of each borrower. As we get into next year, that should normalize, right? So because customer additions this year has been less, but because there was moratorium and interest got added to the account, the AUMs have grown nicely in the MFI portfolio. That should normalize next year, right? Is that a fair expectation to have?
See, there are two things. One, as a policy, we don't charge interest on interest. The normal interest do get levied on our EEB book. And two, that impact anyway got nullified to some extent by way of ex gratia, which was offered to the customers.
No, what I'm trying to say is, let's say pre-COVID you were in an X cycle, let's say cycle 5 or 3, you're offering a person a 50,000 rupees loan. Automatically, because of interest and everything, his outstanding has become more. Next year, you're not going to lend him 70,000 straight, right? Because so I'm just trying to understand that next year you shouldn't get next couple of years, your ticket size growth could be quite low, right, in the MFI portfolio?
So there are two things. One is the next cycle disbursement, we look at disbursement amount to disbursement amount. Right? So disbursement amount has not changed. That's point number one. And two, there is no automatic increase because the customer has changed the cycle. We do evaluate the customer as well. So there have been customers who've been at a similar range for last 4 years also.
Yeah. Got it. And my last question is on to Sudhin on mortgages, where are we? We don't see the book accreting fast in terms of growth. Have we got to that inflection point? We've reached enough branches of where we can start growing the book fast. What are the constraints? Because it's been some period now since the book's been more like consolidating.
That's correct, the observation which you have noticed. I think, we had completed the merger and consolidation, everything was through by March. Yes. Unfortunately, post-COVID in March, I think we had the first quarter almost, blank, nothing major happened. And month on month, since April onwards, there has been an improvement in the disbursements. And I think the last quarter we have seen quite a satisfactory growth in the disbursements. I think it is in excess of around 30%. And other new branches also which we had mobilized from the Bandhan Bank, there also they have started contributing. I think approximately 15 to 16% contribution has started coming from the new branches which we have mobilized through the Bandhan Bank branches. And if you look at it, we have been analyzing it. The states where we were not earlier present, like the northern states and the eastern states, I think, if I would compare the figures, we used to get approximately 700 cases. I think corresponding to that, this quarter we have got almost 3,500 cases. So I think, we have been seeing the, improvement coming from all these new territories and the Bandhan branches. So I think going forward, I'm optimistic that, there should be the growth reflected in the AUM. One of the reason AUM is not reflecting the growth corresponding to the disbursement is partly one is the prepayment which was there throughout this 9-month period, whereas we had not much of the disbursements during the first and the second quarter. Besides, we keep receiving the credit-linked subsidy from the government on the affordable housing, the customers who are eligible for the CLSS. So that crashes the outstanding loan amount. So AUM growth doesn't reflect that. So I think these are the couple of factors which have not been showing the kind of the AUM growth which should show. And if the disbursement trend as we have experienced during the third quarter, if it continues, I think we will be able to see the growth in the loan assets.
Perfect. Thanks, Subin and Sunil. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of P. Subramaniam from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask on the collection efficiency, which you reported at 92%. Now, if you look at the 7% pro forma GNPA, you said mostly it's from the EEB book, which means EEB is seeing a 10% pro forma GNPA. So of this 92%, would it be fair to say that the remaining portion has largely or almost entirely been recognized in the pro forma GNPA, or is that a simple way of it?
No, I didn't get your question. Could you please repeat?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, since we are seeing a 92% collection and the pro forma GNPA on the EEB book is 10%.
Right.
So is the remaining book which you've not recognized, is that the entirely paying?
That I think I'm not able to explain. We need to de-link between DPD and collection efficiency.
Right.
The pro forma or the DPD customer does not mean that the customer is not paying today. These customers must have missed earlier installment. And
okay. So let me just explain. So you said 80% is entirely paying. 10% is pro forma GNPA and 10% is part paying. Is that a correct way of understanding?
See, again, we are mixing number of customers with pro forma, which is a DPD position, right? what I'm trying to say is, if a customer who didn't start the payment in the first month or the second month, or the customer who's paying me part installment, in my collection efficiency calculation, instead of 100%, that customer will give me 50%. Right? So my collection efficiency will, to that extent, show a little bit higher. But in my DPD calculation, since it's a part payment customer, the DPD keeps moving. So we can't say a pro forma 10% NPA means it is equivalent to my 90% collection efficiency.
Yeah, I get that, actually. Yeah. Okay. So 80% is full paying and part paying would be 10%. Is that correct? Based on what you said?
So the part paying will be 13% odd.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. And just one other question, if I can squeeze in, on the overall provisions that you hold, standard provision, is any part, as in, have you earmarked for Assam any particular number? I might have missed that. Thanks a lot. Specifically earmarked for Assam.
Sir, I would request you to please stay online. We are just trying to reconnect the line. Mr. P. Subramaniam, we have the management reconnected.
Sorry.
Hello.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I wanted to understand of the 3,100 crore of provisions we hold, how much is specifically earmarked for Assam, if you've given out that number?
This is based on the collection efficiency number of customers pay. Right? So we've already seen a drop in Assam collection efficiency. So accordingly, we have made the provisions in line with the collection efficiency of the current date.
Hello?
Okay, sir. That's all from my end. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Kumar Premchandani from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, last time. I just want to understand what are the key learnings for the management, given that last quarter you didn't provide enough for the COVID-related stress, and kind of despite repeated kind of questions from analysts that why they have been under provision, and kind of you kept on guiding for the similar credit cost. And this quarter we have seen that many other banking and financial reports have come, and most of them actually have reduced their stress estimate as compared to what they were guiding last quarter, while you are the one who actually have to increase the stress estimate. So what are the key learnings, and how will you guide going forward on these matters?
See, there are two things here. One is till last quarter, whatever we had targeted in terms of collection efficiency, we've been hitting those numbers, right? We started with 60% in June, going up to 90% in September. So we were there till the time we had guided our collection number. What we have seen this quarter, the pickup which was to happen between September and December has slightly slowed down, and it is taking longer. So that's one piece here, right? So that's where there is this disconnect. And secondly, most importantly, we will be the only bank which has zero restructuring in our books today, right? If we were to do restructuring of these part payment customers, we would have been in line. Right? Then I would have not required to take this kind of provision, and also my pro forma numbers would have looked better. Right? So our philosophy is very clear. We want to engage with the customer, get the collections to the extent possible, and use these options only as the last measure.
Yeah, but I would still think that despite adjusting for restructuring, the numbers have been much worse than what the management had guided last quarter.
That I explained, as a response to my first point, that till September we have been hitting those collection efficiency numbers. Between September and December, what we had guided is taking longer, and that's where this gap has come. Right, but the number of customers paying still continues, right? I mean, so what we see is, yes, there has been, a slight. We would have wanted more collection efficiency, but it's more of a timing difference. Of course, Assam we have a different issue to deal with.
Just to understand, will you be more conservative going forward on provisioning?
We've always been. We've always taken any challenges and provided upfront. And we will be conservative.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from Motilal Oswal Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. A couple of questions. How do you compare Bandhan's collection efficiency in Assam and West Bengal to the overall industry? Because currently Bandhan has always done better, like amidst so many crises that we have seen. And when you say that trends are beginning to stabilize in Assam, are you witnessing the similar trends for the industry as well?
It's very difficult to comment on the industry, right? We will be more comfortable talking about our numbers and our process. But historically, we've always been better than the industry, and there is no reason why we would not be this time.
Okay. And how is the mix of Assam like a change in terms of MFI loans over the past couple of years?
Can you repeat it?
The mix of MFI loans in Assam. So how has that changed over the past 2-3 years? Some color around that?
You mean the share of Assam?
Yeah, the share of Assam and the outstanding MFI loans. How is this now and versus?
The peak share used to be 17%, which has come down to 14%.
Okay. And the other question that I have is on the deposit growth side. So just one clarification on the growth, like, as to how much of this has come in from the army accounts as we won this mandate recently. And are we paying more than the average rates on these deposits?
No, we have been not yet on that to say to you. We have been just to sign it on that. My team is working on this. Hope it will become very good.
And here the rate does not change. The rate will be the same. It's just the facilities we will offer them more in terms of pickup facility, doorstep facility, and so on.
Okay. So, and what is the size of opportunity that we are looking at from these accounts?
Too early to say, but it's a very opportunity. We have to, first click in the numbers before we talk about it.
Sure, sir. Thanks. These are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nishan Shah from Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the opportunity. A couple of things from my side. First, on the MFI deposit growth. So this quarter, there's been roughly a 20% kind of Q-on-Q growth in the average balances per MFI deposit or SA balance. And there's also been like roughly 10% odd growth in the customer count. So this works out to a 30% odd growth in the overall deposits in SA balances of MFI customers. So could you just talk about how that comes to be in such a tough environment when collections are also dropping a little bit? And second question, what are your thoughts on the recent comments by the RBI Deputy Governor in November talking about looking at an overhaul of MFI regulations, looking at more activity-based regulation rather than entity-based. So clearly is alluding to doing away with the differentiation between the regulations that exist with banks and MFIs or NBFC MFIs. So those two questions first, if you could answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dishant. So your first question, we'll have to do the math whether that 30% number is correct. But, my reaction to the MFI customer deposits, as the activity level, the business level of the customers increase, clearly the balances with these customers also go up. In the COVID environment, they used to dip into their savings to repay the installments. That has reduced now. That's one. That could be one reason. The other reason, of course, the subsidy keeps coming into these accounts, whether it is PM Kisan or Garib Kalyan. So that also helps in increasing the balance. So that's on the MFI deposit. On the regulation side, I mean, we've read it too much, too many places, but I would not tend to read too much into these activity-based and the entity-based regulations as to what the regulator means. I know I would leave it to the regulator and their wisdom rather than judging it and speculating it. Right? But clearly, historically, there has been differences, between NBFCs and banks. Banks are, in fact, more regulated than NBFCs, both in supervision as well as other regulations. So I'm not too sure how to read this and whether it is positive one type of entity or negative other type of entity. Too difficult to consider.
Okay, fair. No, specifically because the comments included the fact that, he acknowledges that only 30% of the industry is now in an NBFC MFI format to which the 2010 rules apply, be it on spread caps or on ticket size amounts or on anything. And the intent is to just understand, there are smaller, probably NBFCs who abuse this system by not counting bank loans in the overall indebtedness cap. So whether a common cap could be introduced, that was the way I was looking at it. Fair enough. Thank you. Those are the only two things from me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sameer Bhise from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
My question has been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anand Dama from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So first question is about the Assam. So the loan waiver that the government has or the political parties have actually basically talked about. So will it be only applicable to the SHG loans or it will be also applicable to the microfinance loan? And if to microfinance loan, what percentage of our...
Sorry to interrupt, requesting you to please speak a bit louder, sir. Your audio is not very audible.
Yeah, sure. Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. You may please go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying that in case of Assam, so we have seen politics talking about the loan waivers. So do you believe that these loan waivers will be only applicable to the SHG loans or it will be also for the microfinance? And if for microfinance, that our portfolio also will be eligible for that, or do you think that there will be some cutoff in terms of ticket sizes or customer categories as such? Any color on that if you can provide?
See, that clarity will come only when the rules, if this happens firstly, and then the rules are framed under that, only then the clarity will come. Otherwise, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, but whenever these kind of waivers have been announced in any other state, or if you have any past records to talk about, whether it is applicable to the SHG loans only or to the microfinance loans?
If we see that this is the first time one state has been declared only microfinance loan and agriculture. But earlier, all the states have been declared about the agricultural loan. And if you see that the long back on that, the UP have been declared as a loan, agricultural loan in that time. And after that, that is a lot of this type of noise has come. But after that, when the people say that they are not getting anything on that because there is a criteria is different. So then again introduced it in that the Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. After when it was introduced, but no one has been listening about it on that. So we are not sure about it what will happen after that.
Okay. So yeah, so basically, sir, in that case, so still we will look for making. So we are assuming that basically 10% of the portfolio could be at risk, and possibly even more if the collection efficiency drops from here on. So and Sunil said that basically we will take up whatever has to be taken in the fourth quarter and then move on. So does that mean that we will take the write-offs in the fourth quarter, move on, because the loan waivers and all will really take time to be formalized once the government forms and all. So then is it the end or like?
No, Anand, see, firstly, how much will it, we are not suggesting that things will become worse from here, right? That's not what we are suggesting. Two, whether this farm loan will get implemented, if so, in what fashion? Because typically, if the farm loan waiver gets implemented, it's the government who has to pay to the bank, right? So technically, there should not be the loss to the lending institution. So that's how has been the case in case of a farm loan waiver. It's the first time we are seeing microfinance loan waiver being announced. So first we'll have to see the applicability, and two, how it works. And we don't see any reason why it should be any different, because they have announced both microfinance and farm loan, right, together. So technically, if they announce loan waiver, then they have to repay. The challenge in the microfinance industry used to face when the farm loan was announced, the local leaders used to influence the microbanking customers saying that your loan has been waived, where they were not eligible because it was for farm loan waiver. So no one used to benefit. The customer used to lose it because their credit score is gone, and the lending institution does not get reimbursed from the government. In this case, if it's a microfinance loan waiver, it has to be reimbursed by the government. But having said that, we'll have to look at the modalities and then see.
Yeah. But what really, if it is for microfinance, why would just 10% customers would not pay and, basically of the portfolio not pay?
It's the initial reaction, right?
Yeah.
This is the initial reaction. When there is a newspaper headline, different people think differently. So these set of customers initially would have thought that I don't need to pay now. It's only when we make them understand, there is some clarity on the ground, with passage of time, things get normalized.
And this 7.5% of pro forma NPS that we have, it is nothing to do with Assam as of now, right? Because this is very, very new phenomena.
Assam, right? Because Assam efficiency has historically been lower.
Yeah, historically it has been lower. So any stress formation primarily because of these waivers being announced will be in addition to what we have at this point of time, that is 7.5%, right?
Again, what we've been saying, that this pro forma number does not mean this is the level of stress in the book, because the pro forma number does not consider the part payment customers, right? So we are not saying that this is the level of stress in the book. Right? Pro forma number means these are 90 days overdue, and once the customer pays, instead of 3 months, they will take 6 months, assuming this customer has paying 50%. This will again get upgraded to standard account.
Okay. But what are the maximum reasons that you would attribute that why these customers have not paid for 90 DPDs? Is it basically the willingness, or customer is from a particular segment of business?
That's what I'm saying, right? If I have to remove part payment customers, then this number will drop to 3%.
Okay.
Yeah. The customers are paying. If they are paying, part installments, the DPD of those customers are flowing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? So, let's say a customer has 100 rupee installment. Customer is paying 50 rupees every week after week. Right? So, essentially, these customers' DPD will keep increasing. In 6 months' time, they will become 3 months overdue.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So that is what that number is looking higher.
And any color on the customer segments? I mean, that 3.5% who is not paying, single. So they are basically 90 DPD and not even partly payment customers.
Yes. So that is what we are saying, right? About 5 to 6% of our customers are not paying.
So is it because of the willingness, or what kind of business that they were into that they have got impacted?
It's a mix of all, right? Some customers have lost their business, right? Some customers, have been impacted by